Gather round, history seekers, because we're about to unearth a tale as intriguing as it is unexpected from the heart of the Aztec Empire. It's the early 16th century, and you're stepping into the lush, terraced gardens of Tenochtitlan, the dazzling island city that once rivaled any in the world. The air hums with the scent of blooming marigolds and the faint tang of canal water, where a group of unassuming garden keepers tend to the empire's bounty. These weren't the warrior kings or priestly elites you might picture. Oh no, they were the quiet backbone of Aztec life, nurturing maize, beans, and chinampas with calloused hands. But their story takes a wild turn, revealing a survival secret that blends devotion with desperation, a testament to human adaptability in a civilization on the brink. The Aztec Empire, at its height under rulers like Moctezuma II, was a marvel of agriculture and engineering. You can imagine the chinampas, floating gardens built on lake beds, stretching across the waters of Lake Texcoco, a green patchwork fed by the sun and ingenuity. These garden keepers, often from the lower classes, were the unsung heroes who kept the empire fed. Their days began before dawn, the rhythmic splash of water and the rustle of leaves filling the air as they irrigated crops with hand-dug canals. They worked under the watchful eyes of the gods, believing their labor honored deities like Tlaloc, the rain god. But life wasn't all reverence. Famine loomed as a constant threat, especially when droughts parched the land or wars disrupted supplies. Here's where the tale gets peculiar. These keepers turned to an unusual source of sustenance: cat. Yes, you heard that right. Archaeological evidence from sites like Tlatelolco reveals feline bones mingled with cooking debris, suggesting a practice born of necessity. Cats, often kept to control rodents in the granaries, became a fallback meal when maize stalks dwindled. The keepers would trap them with nets or snare them near the gardens, roasting the meat over open fires with a mix of chili and herbs, a dish far removed from the lavish feasts of the Aztec nobility. This wasn't a delicacy, it was a survival tactic, a quiet act of defiance against hunger that showcased their resourcefulness. Life in Tenochtitlan was a delicate balance. The city's population swelled to over 200,000, putting immense pressure on food production. You might picture the garden keepers laboring under the weight of expectation, their gardens a lifeline for the empire. Wars with rival city-states like the Tlaxcalans often cut off trade routes, leaving the keepers to fend for themselves. Cats, abundant and agile, offered a practical solution. Their meat provided protein when fish from the canals grew scarce. Some keepers even developed a grudging respect for these feline guardians, noting their own tenacity mirrored the cat's survival in the bustling city. The Aztec worldview shaped this practice. You can almost hear the priests chanting to Huitzilopochtli, the war god, as the keepers worked, their labor a sacred duty. Eating cats, however, wasn't without controversy. Some saw it as a breach of harmony with the natural order, a taboo whispered among the elite. Yet, for these keepers, survival trumped tradition. They shared stories of their feasts in hushed tones, turning necessity into a badge of resilience. This oral tradition, hinted at in later Spanish accounts, reveals a community bound by hardship, their gardens a symbol of both abundance and struggle. But the question lingers. How did this secret diet affect their standing in a society so steeped in ritual? Did it forge a hidden bond among the keepers, or sow seeds of tension with the priests above? As you ponder their quiet rebellion, you might wonder what other untold tales of survival lie buried in the ruins of Tenochtitlan, waiting to be revealed. Welcome back, history explorers, as we delve deeper into the verdant yet perilous world of the Aztec garden keepers, where their secret reliance on cat meat begins to weave a richer tapestry of survival. You last joined them in the terraced chinampas of Tenochtitlan, marveling at their ingenuity as they turned feline guardians into a lifeline during lean times. Now, let's uncover how this practice shaped their daily lives, forged unexpected alliances, and tested the boundaries of their sacred duties in the early 16th century, a period when the Aztec Empire teetered on the edge of transformation. As the garden keepers honed their craft, the act of eating cats evolved into a refined survival strategy. You can picture them at dusk, gathered near the canals, weaving nets from reeds to trap the agile felines that prowled the granaries. The catch was prepared with care, roasted over open fires with a blend of smoky chili and wild herbs, the aroma mingling with the damp earth. This wasn't a haphazard meal. It was a ritual of resilience, shared in whispered circles to avoid the scorn of the nobility. Spanish chroniclers like Bernal Diaz del Castillo later noted tales of such feasts, suggesting the keepers developed a communal knowledge, passing down techniques like skinning and seasoning that turned necessity into a subtle art form. This practice rippled beyond the Chinampas, linking the keepers with other marginalized groups. You might imagine a late-night exchange with fishermen from Lake Texcoco, trading cat meat for fish when both faced shortages. Archaeological finds, such as those at Tlatelolco, reveal feline bones alongside fish remains, hinting at a barter network born of hardship. These alliances strengthened the keepers' resolve, creating a subculture of survivalists who defied the elite's disdain. The cats, once mere pest controllers, became a symbol of unity, their meat a quiet rebellion against the rigid hierarchies of Aztec society. Yet this bond came with risks. Whispers of their habits reached the priests who saw it as a potential affront to the gods. The pressures of Tenochtitlan's growth amplified their challenges. With the population straining the city's resources, droughts and wartime disruptions left the gardens vulnerable. You can almost feel the tension as the keepers worked under a blazing sun, their terraces wilting while nobles demanded tribute. Cats offered a steady, if unconventional, supply, their numbers thriving amid the chaos. Some keepers even trained the felines to patrol the granaries, a dual role that blurred the line between guardian and meal. This duality fascinated Spanish observers who documented the keepers' pragmatic approach, though they often misunderstood it as barbarism rather than necessity. The Aztec spiritual framework added another layer. You might hear the rhythmic chants to Tlaloc echoing as the keepers labored, their work a sacred offering. Eating cat, however, clashed with the reverence for animals tied to the divine, like the jaguar. Priests occasionally intervened, demanding sacrifices to appease the gods, but the keepers persisted, their survival outweighing theological scrutiny. They shared stories of Nero escapes from priestly wrath, turning these moments into tales of cunning. Narratives that, preserved in fragmented codices, reveal a resilient spirit. This tension between duty and defiance shaped their identity, a quiet resistance against the empire's rigid order. Yet the psychological weight grew heavier. Months of toil, the constant threat of famine, and the secrecy of their feasts wore on their spirits. You can imagine a keeper pausing by the canal, his tired eyes reflecting the water, wondering if this life would ever ease. Did the taste of cat meat harden their resolve or deepen their isolation? As their story unfolds, the mystery of their inner world deepens, leaving us to ponder what drove them to balance survival with the sacred, and how did it reshape their place in Aztec society? As the Spanish arrived in 1519, the garden keeper's world teetered on the brink. You can picture the chaos unfolding, cannon fire echoing over Lake Texcoco, Hernán Cortés and his conquistadores clashing with Moctezuma II's warriors. The Chinampas, once a symbol of abundance, became battlegrounds, their crops trampled underfoot. Famine struck harder than ever, and the keepers' reliance on cat meat reached a peak feature. In the besieged city, they trapped felines with desperate speed, roasting them over dwindling fires as the canals ran red with conflict. One account from Diaz del Castillo describes a keeper feeding his family cat stew amid the siege, a final act of defiance that kept them alive while nobles starved, a stark testament to their unyielding spirit. The fall of Tenochtitlan in 1521 marked a turning point. You might imagine the keepers watching as Spanish forces razed their gardens, their cat feasts, now a fading memory. Many perished in the conquest, their bodies lost to the lake's depths, but those who survived carried their stories into the colonial era. Archaeological evidence from post-conquest sites suggests feline bones alongside Spanish pottery, suggesting the practice lingered among the oppressed, a quiet rebellion against new rulers. The keepers' ingenuity didn't vanish, it adapted, blending with Nahua traditions to sustain communities under Spanish rule, a hidden thread in Mexico's cultural fabric. The spiritual cost, however, was profound. You can almost hear the last chants to Tlaloc fading as priests condemned the cat-eating habit, aligning it with Aztec barbarism to justify conquest. Yet the keepers' resilience outlasted the priests' scorn. Their tales, preserved in fragmented codices and oral histories, became legends of survival, whispered by descendants who saw them as ancestors who defied fate. This duality, sacred duty clashing with survival, left a legacy of adaptability, a lesson in thriving amid ruin. Today, their story mirrors our own challenges. The garden keeper's willingness to eat cats parallels modern innovators who embrace unconventional solutions to crises. Think of urban farmers turning to rooftop gardens in drought-stricken cities. Their resilience shaped Aztec agriculture and influenced post-conquest survival strategies, a quiet force in the birth of modern Mexico. As you reflect on their journey, consider this: what overlooked acts of courage from our past still guide the way we face today's uncertainties? The answer might lie in the echoes of those ancient gardens, waiting to inspire. Thank you for joining this voyage. Stay tuned for more hidden tales from history.